right now. In Washington, D.C., they called for a stop to these shootings. They're calling on Congress to enact stricter gun control laws.
Former Arizona Congresswoman Gabby Giffords and her husband took a stand today, and it has led to some questions if it is too soon to start politicizing the shooting. Political editor Dennis Welch standing by in the newsroom.
Yeah, now, unfortunately, we've seen this play out way too many times here in the recent past, whether after it was Sandy Hook or the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando. These massive killings set off a fierce gun control debate, and today was really no different. This despite the fact that, for the most part, politicians stayed out of this debate, sending thoughts and prayers to the victims and their families instead. But one of Arizona's Democratic Congressman, Ruben Gallego, wasn't waiting. He said on Twitter, quote, "The weapons used in Las Vegas are designed to do a massive amount of damage. Prayer alone can't stop that. Only Congress can help stop it." Also demanding gun control today was Hillary Clinton, who called out the National Rifle Association by name, saying our grief isn't enough. We can and must put politics aside, stand up to the NRA, and work together to try to stop this from happening again. Now, in response to all of this, the White House said it was not time for politics, that the country should be thinking about the victims and their families.
Before we start trying to talk about the preventions of what took place last night, we need to know more facts. And right now, we're simply not at that point. It's very easy for Mrs. Clinton to criticize and to come out, but I think we need to remember the only person with blood on their hands is that of the shooter.
Also want to mention right now that Senator Chris Murphy, he's a Democrat from Connecticut, said today that he will be introducing gun control legislation that requires stricter background checks. He said it was time for Congress to do something. In the newsroom, I'm Dennis Welch for Arizona's Family.
Yeah, a couple bullet points here, Dennis, is one, we're hearing from law enforcement that the shooter modified those guns so that they were firing off more, making them fully automatic. And then we're also hearing reports from some gun sellers who are saying that he legally purchased from them. So he didn't have a background, a history that would have pinged on any kind of background check, right? Yeah,
and usually after a couple of days on this, when the debate about this really starts happening after these types of shootings, these are the types of arguments that you start hearing from the pro-gun side. And they will say, and a lot of times correctly, they'll say stuff like, look, a background check wouldn't have stopped this individual from doing what he did. And still a lot to be learned from this case as this all plays out. But if he did modify those guns, there's really nothing any sellers could have done or any background checks at this point could have stopped him. And again, what we know from this background is he had little more than a traffic ticket that we know right now, so could have purchased a lot of these guns legally anyway.
And Dennis, by the way, Chris Murphy, Senator Chris Murphy, as you said, is from Connecticut, obviously is dealing with the victims of Sandy Hook and that massacre that killed 20 kids from that elementary school. There is a personal story and a personal push from the senator from Connecticut to get this legislation passed in Congress. Dennis Welch, as always, thank you.